Verse 18 says, God is near. God is near. Our King, the one who rules and reigns, is not just sitting in his recliner watching how all this plays out. He is near. Reminds me of the story of Joshua. I don't know if you know the story of Joshua, but Joshua chapter 1 opens. Moses has died, and Joshua has taken the mantle of leader of all the nation of Israel. And they are on their way into the land that God had promised for them. And so I'm sure Joshua, having some pretty big shoes to fill in Moses, is a little overwhelmed, maybe a little afraid, maybe a little trepidatious. Chapter 1, God comes to Joshua and says, be of good courage. Why? Because I am with you. Wherever you go, I am with you. And I know what you might be thinking, Josh, I don't feel like he's near. Might be, and I don't know if this is the case, but it might be because you've moved. It reminds me of a good old country story about a husband and wife, been married for a while in a little single cab truck, you know. Husband driving, the wife sitting in the passenger seat, and they're just driving in silence. And you've probably been in a situation like this where out of the blue, the wife tells the husband, hey, listen, what's wrong with us? And the husband's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean, what's wrong with us? She's like, listen, do you remember when we first got together, like we couldn't keep our hands off each other, and we just loved each other so much, and I practically was sitting in your lap in this truck, and we'd hold hands as we drove down the road. Like, what happened? Why don't we do that anymore? And with a smile on his face, he looked at his wife and said, I haven't moved. Why are you sitting over there? Come on closer. So many times, God is like, hey, I'm right here. I'm right here. Reminds me of another story of a pastor, a very prominent pastor. He was a pastor of a church of about 10,000. 10,000 people on a Sunday would be the average attendance at his church. And his wife and the majority of his kids went on some sort of conference or something, and so he was home with his youngest child. And while his wife and his other kids were gone, his youngest child got sick with something. And so he took his youngest child into the hospital, and there was something like really wrong, and they had to do emergency surgery. And so the pastor is in the waiting room praying to God for his son. And the prayer kind of takes a turn because he starts complaining. God, I'm in hospitals all the time. I'm with people all the time. I'm at funerals. I go see people. I go visit people. Whenever people need me, I try to be there, and there's no one here for me. I'm in this waiting room by myself. None of the other pastors are here. None of the other leaders are here. None of the other members are here. No one cares about me. And he said he stopped for just a minute, and he heard the sweet whisper of God say, well, then who are you talking to? Church, I want you to understand that God is near. And if you and I will seek after Him, He will draw in close. God is near.